Hey hot toddies, let's do Q&A. I'm still sick, you can probably hear it in my voice. I have a blocked nose, I'm not feeling great. I may not seem to have the same kind of energy that I normally bring to these things, but I'm still happy to be here and do it. We have some pretty good questions tonight and I'm really happy to answer them. And I hope you like the answers, so let's get into it. Hello, I'm Summer Tothill and I regularly run Q&As with my supporters on Instagram on matters relating to gender equality. So what you're about to watch is 1 week's worth of these, and if you would like to get involved with them yourself, just come and follow me on Instagram at Summer Tothill. While you're here, please stick around and subscribe to my channel and check out the rest of the Ask a Feminist playlist. You always hear about mother's guilt, yet I've never heard about father's guilt. Suspicious face emoji. Yeah, it's kind of impossible to make someone feel guilty about something that they were never obligated to do or not do, right? And conversely, it's almost impossible not to feel guilty when you are the person who has had this obligation placed on you to do everything and be everything and sacrifice everything and achieve everything. And on top of that, with very little assistance. There are almost no expectations placed on fathers, so therefore anything that they actually do achieve as parents, whether it's just the smallest little task, looking after their children for one morning or one evening, they are congratulated as though they have actually built a barn from scratch. And it's easy to succeed and feel power and never feel guilt and to feel pride when you are praised for every little thing that you do and when you don't actually have that much expectation placed on you. And then it's easy to feel guilty and as though you haven't succeeded when you have just about every expectation placed on you, which is the positions that mothers are in. And not only do they have every type of expectation placed on them, they are criticized for every choice they make. And the choices that they make may be opposite to one another. One mother might make a decision that is completely opposite to another mother, and they will both be criticized for those decisions either way. And those are the decisions that those mothers had to make even if they had no other choice, and even if they had been able to make a better choice had the children's father actually been able to share the load the way that he is supposed to. Perfect motherhood is a gauntlet of contradicting edicts and expectations which effectively actually just cancel each other out. You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, as a mother, just like basically everything else about womanhood under a patriarchy. And of course you're told that being valid as a woman relies on you becoming a mother, and not just any mother, but the right kind of mother. And there is no right kind of mother. I really like Zorn Villeneuve's take on motherhood guilt. It's something that she's written about a lot, and I just want to highlight this one quote for you, which is, "Mom guilt is a way to control mothers. It distracts us from seeing the challenges of motherhood as political rather than personal. Guilt is an individual experience, the product of the belief that I did something bad, not that society set an unreasonable expectation or someone unfairly judged me. If I feel guilty, it's because something is my fault." And if mums feel guilty all the time, well, it's very difficult for them to look around and observe the objective circumstances that force them into the feelings of guilt. End quote. So I guess the upshot here is, as a mother, as long as you're giving it your absolute best at parenthood, there's no need to feel guilty, or at least only feel as guilty as all the dads out there that feel very little guilt at all. Why is the tradwife movement so dangerous? My favourite paradox about the tradwife influencers is if they were actually to go back in time to the period that they are cosplaying, they wouldn't even be allowed to have the content creator, social media influencer jobs that they have, let alone be able to own and bank the money that they're earning doing it. And by the way, the time period that they think they're cosplaying was a period of only about 15 years. And it only applied to white women. Women of color have always worked, and women of lower status have always worked. So frankly, if most of us were to go back to a time period where we perceive the women's easy life was to be a stay-at-home mum and wife, we would probably be impoverished. So I think the danger in peddling the tradwife lifestyle as aspirational is twofold. And the first is that it is a lie. These women who are social media tradwife influencers are almost certainly all the main breadwinner in their family if they are quite successful. They are working, not being traditional wives, and they almost certainly have domestic and child caring help in their household while they do this work of being content creators and influencers. So in fact, they actually couldn't be any further from being a trad wife. They are in fact girl bosses. And the second danger in the tradwife lifestyle is that real tradwives usually end up impoverished and abused. There is a growing movement of women now, middle-aged women, coming out and saying that they married into a tradwife lifestyle, usually a religious lifestyle, when they were very young, say 19 to 22, thinking that they were marrying into a promise of being provided for and protected forever. And what they didn't account for is that men can just divorce their wives and they can leave you as a single mum with no paid work experience, no career, and very little hireability. And people act like this type of impoverishment is a sort of unfortunate and unexpected side effect of the traditional stay-at-home wife and mother role. But in fact, making women uniquely vulnerable and disempowered is the entire reason that the patriarchal society we live in constructed this type of family unit in the first place. So the more women who are educated about this, the better, because a lot of these influencers are making the traditional wife life look really easy and peaceful and calm and aspirational. But in fact, it is both a lie and a path towards instant vulnerability and economic disenfranchisement, which is so uniquely dangerous to women that we have to push back against it as hard as we can. So this is a sort of complicated question about that rhetoric going on at the moment around your inherent and sacred feminine and masculine, and your women being in their feminine energy and men being in their masculine energy, and how when a woman is in her healed feminine energy, she will naturally submit to a man, and like that's the natural order of being, and sort of characterizing that as some sort of legitimate psychological or relational theory that wasn't just made up by podcast bros. But it was, and once you can see through it, you can see that it is just a model of thinking that deliberately serves the patriarchy. What it is biological deterministic bullshit. There is no such thing as inherently masculine or inherently feminine traits. Gender is a construct, and there is really no such thing as like the inherent feminine, the inherent masculine, or the sacred feminine, or the sacred masculine, frankly. And within this type of rhetoric, you can hear the kind of biologically essentialist woo-woo that actually leads to the far right. So there's this thing called the wellness to far right pipeline, or the like woo to conservative pipeline. And it's where these kind of like pseudo-spiritual traditionalistic beliefs of divine feminine, God and goddess, sacred masculine and feminine lead to uber conservative, uber far right ways of thinking. They can seem like they're kind of modern, progressive, alternative spiritual ways of thinking, but all they are is just patriarchy repackaged. So men on the internet love to say like it's not sexism, it's just biology, and that men and women are just wired differently. But we're not. We do not have different brains. There's no such thing as a female brain or a male brain. There is just no real evidence to support that we have a inherent feminine or masculine that needs to be healed. Because isn't it interesting that in the scenario of a woman healing her inner feminine, she submits to a man? Like, how fucking convenient. We only see differences in the behaviors of genders because we socialize children differently, and research shows that we instruct gender into children from birth, literally from birth. And of course, patriarchy has constructed this system of ascribing specific traits to specific genders so that men get to embody talents that are much more respected and which net them power and influence and money, while inherently feminine characteristics are A, not socially valued, and B, result in them being subservient and generous and giving and kind and physically available and emotionally available. So yeah, the upshot is it's biological deterministic patriarchal far right bullshit, and none of it holds any water whatsoever. So you should just like swipe and scroll whenever you see that shit in your socials. That's it for this Q&A. Thank you so much for listening. Find me on Instagram at summertothill. That's summer with an O, spelt the same way as you see in this YouTube channel. I can't wait to see you there.